A lot of people's concerns will be finally put to rest in this video. I hope, at least. I've been seeing a lot of discussions and concerns about whether or not Super Saiyan 4 or GT period will be appearing in Dragon Ball Sparking Zero across Twitter, YouTube comments, and even comments of my own videos. Well, Sean Schemmel himself, during a panel, mentioned Super Saiyan 4 specifically when talking about Sparking Zero. And it seems that many fans' concerns can be alleviated from this. Well, I thought so, but there's obviously still some doubt. I do want to shed some light on some details that I was able to find to further point that this is actually leaning towards more likely being true. And for more Dragon Ball FighterZ videos, hit that subscribe button and notification bell to help raise that 38% even higher. Not only are we doing these news updates and keeping you guys informed on the game, we will be doing character guides and breakdowns in the coming future as soon as we get our hands on this game. Now, with that being said, let's get into this video. The following information actually comes from a panel that the cast of Dragon Ball Z actually did for Anime Riverside. It was just a few days ago, so this actually has been circulating online for a little bit. Shout out to Jimmy is a Geek for re-uploading this. To give context here, Sean is talking about, they were asked a question on how they decided to go with the direction of the voice of the characters that they voice. He obviously voices Goku and King Kai. So he's given a little bit of context towards that around when Dragon Ball Kai originally released and the voice direction he decided to take Goku in. But then he does add on some extra bits at the end.
But the tricky part, and I got to give Damon Mills some credit here because he's been directing me on this last game we've been working on, and keeping track of, I didn't realize that subtly changing the voice for every single form was going to bite me in the ass later. And so keeping track of all that for like Super Saiyan 4, Super Saiyan 3, God Mode Red Hair, God Mode, and it's all real subtle different things, And so Damon has just been on top of just keeping all my references, everything in line, going through, making sure everything's right, really nitpicking it. It's a very challenging thing to do, but it's easy to solve as long as you keep vocal references around, because the second I hear it, I can do it. But after 25 years, it's a little bit tricky. And then the other thing is just as I age, to make sure I can keep, if I have to mimic a scream from what I did when I was younger and healthier, to make sure I can still do it at the exact same level, which has not bothered me yet, but I can feel it creeping. So my doctor's like, go to the gym, dude.
That is true. Goku's voice throughout many of his transformations, specifically Super Saiyan 3 and 4, he has a different dialect and the way he delivers his words. He's a little bit more calm, reserved, in my opinion, more scary. So what Sean is saying right here is that in regards to the recent game that he is currently working on right now with Damon Mills, and Damon Mills, guys, is the voice actor for Frieza. Damon Mills is actually the lead voice director for Sparking Zero. He actually did confirm this on Twitter back in December, actually, so it's about over 6 months now. Got the clear to share I'll be returning as the voice of Frieza in Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, which is awesome. He's a great Frieza. And I'm the lead voice director for this, also helping to produce, script, adapt, and audio engineer when it comes to Sparking Zero. And Sean specifically says this game that he and Damon have been working on, and the first character he names is Super Saiyan 4 Goku. The funniest thing about this is I think that Sean did let something slip, because as soon as he starts listing the different forms and he starts off with Super Saiyan 4, you can kind of see the demeanor between Kyle and Chris shift. Now, Kyle is a huge nerd, big Dragon Ball fan. I'm pretty sure he knows and is aware of like certain things you shouldn't talk about. He's the voice of Gohan. I have no doubt that he voiced and recorded some lines for Beast Gohan's form later on, and they were probably informed, hey, don't mention certain things of that nature. But for Sean, he's Goku, bro. What are they gonna do? You're gonna recast him? They can't. And Chris, being the voice of Vegeta and many other characters within the game, like a lot of characters, probably majority of the cast, Chris does. He's also helped a lot in the same ways that Damon Mills has as being like a lead voice director. He's helped direct a lot of the castmates when it comes to voicing lines specifically for shows or movies that they're working on. They've even used his studios as well. Look at his face once Sean lists and says Super Saiyan 4.
So keeping track of all that for like Super Saiyan 4, Super Saiyan 3, God Mode Red,
head turn right here,
all real subtle different things, And so Damon
kind of looking at him, looking kind of nervous, looking over this way. Kyle's not even moving. Right. Before, Kyle was moving left and right the whole entire time. Now Kyle's just like fixated right here, staring into one area.
But after 25 years, it's a little bit tricky. And then the other thing is just as I age.
I personally don't think it's that big of a deal. I did not doubt for a second that Super Saiyan 4 would not be appearing in this. I know Super Saiyan 4 didn't appear in Kakarot, but that also could be given up to the fact that the game was called Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, whereas all the other games like Dragon Ball Xenoverse and Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, they don't necessarily have the Z tagline. So it's a celebration of all things Dragon Ball, and all things Dragon Ball will be included at some time within the game. That includes GT, Z, Super, and original Dragon Ball. Now, quite possibly, when might we be able to see or get Super Saiyan 4 Goku into the game, or GT characters? We don't know. What we know right now is that the game is going to be going from the beginning of Z, so Raditz, all the way up till the Tournament of Power at its base. So I don't think he will be included in the base roster. He for sure will be DLC at a later point. I don't know exactly when that will be the case, but he should be DLC at a later portion of this game's life cycle. I would imagine the same also goes for Beast Mode Gohan and Piccolo's Orange form. Also, the previous Tenkaichi games and Budokai as well featured GT characters and GT forms, so it would be kind of weird to see that not be the case in this newer version where the series is coming back after 17 years. So again, I think it's safe to say that Super Saiyan 4, Goku, Vegeta, Omega Shenron, and many others will be making their way into this game. The content cycle when it comes to Dragon Ball games is crazy. I mean, just look at how long Kakarot and Xenoverse 2 have been supported. Some of them are still going on, I believe. I think recently Xenoverse 2 had a DLC or an event of some sorts going on, and the representation and appreciation for those things have been well off the charts. Like, Dragon Ball fans love the series. They consume anything, myself included. I think longevity is a major factor with these games, and I don't see the player population dipping anytime soon. Now, this next portion I do want to jump into doesn't necessarily have to do with Super Saiyan 4, but it's something that I've always kind of had a concern with when it came to Dragon Ball games, specifically the voice acting in Dragon Ball games. Now, we all know the most iconic element about Dragon Ball Z, we all know and love, is the deep, emotional, impactful screams and the godlike transformations of that nature. I always felt like they really were lacking in a lot of that for a lot of Dragon Ball games. I mean, I can't say the same for the Japanese voices. Like, when you look at Dragon Ball FighterZ, the Cell scream intro in Japanese has just been like a huge community phenomenon that everybody loves and gushes out over. It's just always been weird with the English voice acting in the anime and the movies, where it's been really fantastic and well done, but the games always felt a little lackluster. Felt like screams were cut off really short, or they weren't extended long enough, and there's a lot of empty air in some moments. They actually get a question in relating to voice acting for Sparking Zero that addresses a lot of the concern that I had, and I had no idea that this was actually a factor, and I found it kind of interesting, so I do want to talk about it for a bit.
Hi guys,
Hello.
My name is Kenneth, and I know a lot of us are excited for Sparking Zero to come out. And then I was wondering how you guys enjoyed your experience voice acting for video games and for Sparking Zero.
I mean, generally I don't love video games as much as animation, only because I have a lot more context with animation, and so I can see exactly what kind of scream I need to do, exactly because I can see the emotion on the characters. And with the video game, we get like hundreds and hundreds of lines, and the director's responsible for making sure that, and sometimes even the director doesn't know what it's going to go to in Japan, and so we're oftentimes at the very end getting assets and then trying to make it tie together, because these are huge games that are localized in many languages. So making it all cohesive is a million moving parts. And so it takes a director like Damon Mills, who's currently directed me on the game, to keep it all really good and making sure that it's going to be as good as the show is very difficult to do when you don't have all the assets, because they're making the assets while you're recording. It's all happening. It's part of video game making business, so it's challenging. Am I right about that, Chris? Because you know more about this than I do.
Yeah,
As the guy edit. You're helming this game, right?
Well, it's fun for the first 6 hours or so. And
Well, it's
then
like line by line by line, right?
and then it becomes a bit of a grind afterwards. I've had people have come and say, "Hey, can I watch a recording session?" And I'm like, "Okay." Then after about an hour, they're like, "Can I go? Because this is boring." Because a lot of time it's just it's a bit of, to be honest, it's a little bit of torture for a while, because you've got to do another hour to your session's over, and it's just like, okay, you're looking down the page and you see nothing but A's, like H A A A A A H A A A A A.
And then you have weird ones like Google Blah, and it's like so ha jump go, and you're doing it on the line, and then it's like, okay, repeat it from the last game you did. So ka and you're doing it over and over and over.
Yeah,
and then it's like, do a Kamehameha, but how big is it? So sometimes it'll be finished and like it doesn't look as big. It looks bigger than it sounds, and I don't get to see it. And so it's, you know what I'm
like
saying,
you
David.
multiply that times 3, and
Yeah, so see, that makes a lot of sense. Like, there's a lot of times where a Kamehameha has to be done really quick, because obviously in a fighting game, you don't want them to just, like, in the middle of a 4-punch combo, and then you're launching a Kamehameha. You don't want them just sit there and be like, Kamehameha. Like, he's got to do it really quick. And I've even seen it in Sparking Zero's recent footage where Goku in combat will be using a Kamehameha, and he's like, Kamehameha! Like, he does it really quick. And it's always been like that since Budokai games, and like English voiced Dragon Ball games has been a thing. But it does provide a lot of context and answers the long question that I've always wondered about. Yeah, I can't imagine it's very easy, especially when you don't have an animation to reference it off of, which they technically do when it comes to the TV shows and like the movies that they're voicing. I will say I am grateful to see that this has been confirmed many times over, but Damon Mills actually mentioned specifically that they reanimated the mouth flaps to fit the English performances, which is super cool. Very rare thing to do in anime games period. So I think that's a really awesome change that we're now seeing within games, and I hope that that is something that they strive towards doing consistently now. But I want to know in the comments below, did any of you guys also have that concern as well, where you felt like the voice acting and the screams and the impact of that nature wasn't really felt or hasn't really been felt in Dragon Ball games of recent? Let me know. I want to have a discussion about that, because it is something that I was talking with a friend about this like last month, and lo and behold, they come up and they mentioned this, so this did provide a lot of context to that. All this stuff is amazing, man. Like I said, I didn't have a doubt for any second that Super Saiyan 4 was not going to be in this game. For sure thing. The only main concern I have right now is rollback netcode. At least give us some talks about what netcode can we expect going into this game, and what other game modes might we be able to experience. I know there's still a lot of people doubting that this doesn't necessarily mean that Super Saiyan 4 will be in the game, but straight up, I don't think Damon Mills is lead voice directing any other game that Sean Schemmel is also working on, so that statement doesn't make sense to me, given the fact that we know this information right here, and then Sean previously says that and goes directly to Super Saiyan 4. But to be honest, I want to hear what you guys think. Let me know in the comments below. Be sure to like the video if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you are new. More Dragon Ball Sparking videos are on the way, and you don't want to miss them. My name is Blitz, and thanks for watching.